If you're struggling to stand out in your market, the problem might not be your product, it's your messaging. If I dropped your homepage into a sea of 10 competitors, I probably couldn't tell you apart, and neither can your customers. And believe it or not, that's actually pretty normal, especially in crowded market. Most early stage startups differ to vague, safe, and essentially jargon heavy messaging. Because when you take a look at the market leaders, they are doing the same thing. But the thing is, they can't afford it because everyone knows them. Everyone knows Salesforce, everyone knows Asana, everyone knows those big giant players. But the thing is, you are an early stage startups. People don't have the same level of awareness that they do. The main problem is that startups lead with what their product does, not what it means. So today I will show you how to differentiate in a crowded market in 10 minutes without changing your product. If you don't know me yet, I'm Gab Bujo. I've been in marketing for almost a decade, and I've been helping B2B SaaS startups for over 2 years as a fractional product marketer. Here we go. Okay. Differentiation is technically a buzzword, and I feel like it has been for a couple of years. But essential differentiation is how can you bring your own point of view, your own promises, and essentially the way your startup is dealing with things compared to a specific competitive market. And I wanted to show you this visual first because it has a couple of elements, right? First of all, you need to know how do you want to segment the market? Who do you want to solve a problem for? This will essentially be your target market, and then this will fuel your positioning. I talked a bit earlier about fuzzy messaging that when you put a bunch of headlines together, everyone sounds the same. And it's usually because you're copying the competitors. You don't necessarily know how you should handle it. And fuzzy or bad messaging usually comes with a lack of positioning. You're unable to try to differentiate to a specific ICP, and it's foundational. If your positioning is bad, your messaging will be bad, and then it will impact the way your product is being developed, the way it's being priced, packaged, and the way you're handling marketing and sales, and ultimately your customer experience as well. Essentially, your positioning strategy is how do you explain what you're building? How do you create a mind share in the head of your potential customers and current customers to position your product in a crowded market? If I want to buy a specific tool, usually I have to understand the category, I have to understand the context behind it, and I have to understand who is it for and why should I care about that. So that's the first thing. Your messaging is how will you build the structure around your positioning? How would you pressure test that your positioning is effective, and how will you use it in a way to explain to those people what you're trying to build? So, for example, it's including your point of view, your value proposition, the way you are essentially building and approaching a set of features, a value proposition, a set of benefits for a specific target market. And then what you have at the end is a way for you to write a copy for that. So messaging is not copy. It's essentially how can I use that strategic foundation in a way to say it from a clever perspective. So essentially, if you care about having a right business strategy and a right product strategy, a right roadmap of what do you build, your positioning will technically inform your product strategy, and your business plan will inform both of these. So it's technically the three of them kind of work together. This is a great example by Fletch PMM that they built. But essentially, without positioning, you're building a product that have no destination. And without linking your positioning strategy to your business strategy, it doesn't make sense to explain what you're building. And fuzzy elements like that are just making the buyer journey even more complicated for people. Positioning might sound big or complicated, but there's essentially three layers that you can understand. And if you don't know how to differentiate, we'll start with that, right? You don't need to have the three of them, but essentially, if you're able to nail one of these, you will be already better than a lot of early stage startups in that sense. So there's the strategic layer, the brand layer, and the competitive layer. Okay, so the strategic layer has four elements, the category. What space do you play in? In that sense, are you a sales CRM, an operation CRM, a data warehouse, or a business intelligence software? All of those have different category, right? If I want a sales CRM, it might be different than an ops CRM. If I'm trying to put my data in a warehouse versus just creating report with a BI tool, all of that is different. Then you have the audience, right? Who are you exactly aiming? Well, maybe small product marketing team or Series A founder. Those are drastically different. Competitor, who else addresses this problem? When you have that, you're able to kind of come in with, well, maybe we want to target only market leaders or the ones that are against us, or maybe it's a status quo, right? Uh, Doing a DIY with Google Sheet, for example, and then you have a plan to win. How do you plan to win against them? Or maybe we want to be having a generalist approach, or focusing to a specific geos in particular, or a specific set of pains. So once you understand that strategic aspect, this is very much where the business strategy and goal kind of play comes into play in that sense. Next, we have the brand. So I know this one pretty well because that's essentially how we grew our podcast to 1,000 plus monthly listeners. And we grew pretty fast on LinkedIn as well because, who needs another podcast technically? But the way we approach it is we decided to start with the point of view, again, what I talked to you a bit earlier, of product marketers are not marketers. Ooh, shock, right? Everyone was, well, not everyone, but I would say 80% of people were disagreeing with us and still are, and 20% were agreeing. So it was polarizing, it's controversial, but we used that. And then for our brand, so that was like the aspect that people felt emotion, felt emotional face of it, right? Oh, I'm not sure this is a point of view or an opinion I'm agreeing with. Memorability, what we said is, again, the name is easy to recall. We're not marketers, and we used a skeleton for branding here. So every time that people were going on the pod, what we were doing is we're creating skeleton versions of them. And every time that people were jumping on, they were excited to see what AI hardware were going to come in. So we created a very specific script and prompt in DALL-E to generate those with the very similar kind of like 90 cool guy style a little bit, and then consistency, right? The three of us were a trio. We are all using the LinkedIn page to engage on posts on LinkedIn. We have a very specific style in the way we're writing our description, and people like this because it feels unhinged a little bit. So we're taking those three elements and we're able to come up with a recognizable brand. And then the last one that I'll cover in a second is the competitive approach. So for the competitive angle, there's basically three different angles, right? Who is my direct competition, right? How do I stack up against those alternatives? Then the differentiation, is there unique angles or capabilities that set me apart? This one is specific because if you're a technical founder, it's often we think, right, oh, I need more capabilities, I need more features, I need the new OpenAI angle, the new tech that no one has. But to be honest with you, there's different angles. There's the 4C by my good friend John Itkins, and he's talking about not just capabilities, but there's the convenience, right? Are you easy to buy? Is it something that makes it more easy to use your tool, or is there some shortcut that people can take? Then the other angles are also the credibility and cost, right? Credibility. Do you have, if, for example, I'm targeting agencies, do I have enough social proof selling to those agencies? Is it legit enough? Am I credible while taking that angle, or specific geos? And cost? Like, there's a lot of different pricing you can do. For example, there's a copywriting agency called Bywords, and they are positioning kind of against AI, but you only pay per copy. So if I just want someone to write my LinkedIn post, or I want to have a specific set of landing pages, I can just pay them instead of having a subscription pay model. And then the last one is similarities. Where do you overlap with others, and when do you do it better? This positioning element is tough because you have to be truthful with yourself, right? Because your prospects, they will be. They won't put you on a pedestal. They want to understand precisely how do you benchmark, how do you compare. And you're untruth with them, they will just see this as noise and tune off, basically. This is an example of the brand that I talked to you earlier. And essentially, I did a post, it blew up, it became a dumpster fire. And technically, I just want to say that your point of view won't please everyone, right? This is some messages, some comments I got. And when I got them, I felt uncomfortable, right? People disagree with me. Shocking. But it's essentially that. You are telling stuff that people are disagreeing, but some people will agree too. When you realize that people disagree, you can learn about it, you can get their feedback, but essentially that can also means that you're taking the right direction. Not everyone will agree with you, and that's okay. So what you can do, right? You have those layers of positioning, but if you don't know how to start, how to differentiate, follow those three steps. Start by naming your enemy. Is there an outdated thinking or frustrating status quo that you're rebelling against? In that case, there's an example with Kondo. which is an alternative to the LinkedIn inbox. So Mitchell, the founder, is essentially saying that the LinkedIn inbox sucks and that there's a better alternative, which is Condo. For step two, make the bold promise, right? Not what the tool does, but what the user gets. You're trying here to sell the transformation and essentially try to be as useful and as truthful as possible. If people got insights in 60 seconds, or if they were able to save some money after 3 months, just focus on that, focus on the transformation, right? Try to make people feel emotion about it. And for the last step, say it in a sticky way, right? You can add a contrast, a metaphor, a tension, but it should feel fresh, right? From spreadsheet hell to dashboard zen can be an idea. But essentially, this is kind of where your copy comes into play. The best way to go with those three steps and differentiate comes with a lot of iteration, right? You can grab a whiteboard or Miro or a doc and working with your founder teams or just your marketing team and try to figure it out. But if you start with those three positioning layers that I showed you earlier, you should be able to do it easily. If you like this video, this is from a newsletter that I sent called How to Differentiate Your B2B Startups in 15 Minutes. I'm talking a bit more about the specific details, and I went over the 4C method of John Atkins and a lot more. So you can get it in the description, and you can subscribe to the Messaging Sherpa newsletter. Again, a bunch of posts, insightful like this video for you directly in your inbox twice a month. So thank you very much. Subscribe if you like the channel and the video, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.